Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I decided we talk about Snorlax. First of all, this is not exactly a regular video. This is, I'm releasing two videos today. Releasing this video and the podcast. You can check out the podcast as well. So yeah, usually I don't do this. I figure this is a topical one, talking about Snorlax and whether it should be banned. This is a bit of a hot topic, and a weird topic, because some people are saying that Snorlax should be banned. I think a lot of people aren't. And strangely, the two sides are not really talking about the same issue from what I've seen. I haven't looked into it a ton on what people have said, but I've seen a lot of people. Well, we'll get into it. But anyway, you can check out the podcast if you want my regular video. It's actually very long, but I think it's interesting. Some fun little stuff going on there. A bit of a history. I don't know. You check it out for yourself. But anyway, let's talk about Snorlax because Block Snorlax is a bit of a controversial card. Very controversial. Its ability block came out in Pokemon Go, which was around a year and a bit ago. I don't remember exactly when, but yeah, this card is a card that wasn't super good for a long time. If you look at IRL tournaments, didn't see much play for a little while. IRL tournaments are kind of weird and not the most reliable thing in the world. They don't necessarily reflect how good things actually are because there's less data. At least on Limitless. Play Limitless has more data, but it's kind of weaker. I think Pokemon Go came out. I don't remember, but in Silver Tempest, no one was playing Snorlax. I don't think. Where is Snorlax? Snorlax stall was played by 20. Yeah, this is a pretty low, less than 0.1% of people played Snorlax stall. And its win rate wasn't great. It's okay, surprisingly okay, but not the best. What am I? Yeah. So and it was a little different. Anyway, so this was a little while ago though. And so then with Scarlet and Violet, when that came out, Snorlax stall became a little better. Or more highly played, lower win rate, but more highly played with Paldea Evolved. Snorlax, I don't know. I need to say what Snorlax does, though. It stops your opponent from retreating the active, and that's it. Essentially, that's all it does. Snorlax Stall then dropped off in play and win rate with Paldea Evolved. And Obsidian Flames, I came back a little bit higher win rate, a higher play rate as well, at 18th highest played. By the way, the other deck was removed from Play Limit. Oh, it's not exactly removed from Play Limitless, but it's not on the regular deck, so that changes things a little. But I don't think it'll change things too much. But then Paradox Drift, now it's jumped up to 9th. This win rate's pretty high. It was higher, and then people played it more. But it's a very good deck, arguably the best deck. If you looked at my tier list, I don't remember if I put it top. I've done a few different lists, and I put it high. I think it's pretty clearly top 5. Certainly top 10, but I think if you don't say it's top 10, that's pretty. It's a pretty bold take. I'd say it's probably. I think it's pretty clearly top 5. It's high win rate, high play rate, results at all sorts of things, and the big thing about Snorlax is it's a control deck. Obviously, it's focused on pretty much just the Snorlax trapping something in the active, and then it's good, right? It's good. Generally, control isn't that good. Let's see. I'm going to take a look at this format. I'll take a look at this one. Was control any good here? I don't know. It's hard to find. Is this control? Yeah, actual control win rate is not great. It's 34% win rate. We see a bunch of ties and a bunch of losses. Versus Snorlax, we see obviously some ties, a substantial portion of ties. But then we see also a bunch of wins and then a bunch of losses as well. But if you just take a look at wins and losses, its win rate's very, very good. If you count in ignoring ties, I think it's let's see. So I don't know. It's pretty high though. It's pretty good. Ties are a bit of a controversial thing in the Pokemon TCG as well. You get talks about slow playing, which is very controversial. And then you get talks about and that if the time limit is enough, because generally most decks don't have trouble finishing in the time limit. Well, in online, not IRL. IRL, the time limit's super short. It doesn't work at all. In my opinion, I don't play too much IRL, but I know it's best of 3 50 minutes, but you can't actually like essentially ever finish 3 games in 50 minutes. I mean, you can. If someone can comment down below if you can like reliably finish 3 full games in 15 minutes. I don't think you can though. It's not. Certainly with Snorlax stall, you won't unless people just concede, which is not really finishing. Like if you concede, you're technically finishing the game, but you're not like reaching the win condition, any of the 3 win conditions. So I'd say you're not really finishing 3 games in 50 minutes with Snorlax stall like ever. So you will have lots of ties and IRL events. This video is not necessarily focused on IRL or online or even competitive. But yeah, so Snorlax stall is also easy. That is one of the things. But I guess we should just the one argument I've seen, the number one argument I've seen for why it shouldn't be banned is it's not that good. 52.8% win rate is fine. It's good, but nothing like insane. If you do 100, let's see, 121 divided by 21 plus, I think it was 803, you end up with a 58% win rate, which is very high. That's pretty good. So if you look at it as a 58% win rate, that's very good. Obviously, other decks win rates would become higher if you're not looking at ties as well, but they wouldn't become as much higher. So that's a thing. Meaning that Snorlax stall, it's worse in tournaments. Like its tournament performance is actually worse than how the deck actually is on like ladder and like how powerful it actually is because of ties, because of timeouts and stuff. And best of 3 scenarios in certain rule sets, some rule sets say that taking prizes is like an advantage and helps you. I believe in top cut of IRL events, that's how it works, which is kind of weird, meaning that you unfavors or disfavors Snorlax control. But at some tournaments, like at this tournament, it won and saw play at a high level. In this tournament, it did well. In this tournament, it didn't do so well, but this was a smaller one. Let's see. This one is in international. It did okay. Not great. And then in this tournament, it did. This is a smaller one. Didn't really do anything. So you see, it's okay. This one is a Japanese standard tournament. Didn't do anything. Look a little earlier. And so it's a newer deck as well. So it's like the hot new deck. Which is kind of important. Like, let's see, this is the biggest. I was gonna say this is the biggest tournament ever. I don't think it is. I think it's up there, but it's not like the biggest. And no Snorlax, I don't know why there's only the top 16. Generally, Limitless reports more people. Like in this tournament, it reports. I mean, it's the World Championship. They report more people. Like even this Pittsburgh tournament, which is like the same. I don't know. Limitless does like weird stuff. Like this tournament. I guess it's because America and they have more like American people, so they can get results easier. But I don't know. I wish they would report more Japanese tournament results in Limitless. But I'm getting sidetracked. So Snorlax is not too good. It is very solid. It is arguably very good, arguably the best deck, but I wouldn't say it's too good. In past formats, we've seen decks that are very good. UV Max was very good. And it wasn't really. Maybe it was called into banning, but not like really. And arguably it's too good, but I don't think there are a large group of people realistically calling for it to be banned. So yeah, I've talked about how good it is for enough the time though, and it's pretty good, but it's not ban worthy. And based on that, it does not deserve a ban. I don't think many people would say that. I think there are some people who would say that based on its win rate, it deserves a ban. It doesn't even have like the highest win rate. But if you take out ties, then it has a really high win rate. But then you see like, oh, Mutagenesis X win rate's super high, and like Italian Airsphere's win rate's like super high. And then you could like look at like these weird low decks and be like, oh yeah, look at this deck. Arceus Flying Pikachu's broken, so you could always twist the data to whatever you want, which is means that Snorlax does not appear to be the best. And so you could twist the data to show that Snorlax stall is the best, which is fine, and I think it's not completely invalid to put the data in that way, but a lot of it is not pointing that it's the best deck. That brings us to the second point, and I guess the more important point, and that Snorlax stall is not fun, and it's easy. Those are two different things, but it is pretty simple. If we look on Limitless, obviously this looks a little complicated to people who don't play Control, but it's not that bad. And even simpler builds, let's see, a lot of them, this one's 0 energy, so you're never attacking ever. You can't attack. You have 2 activated abilities. So You could use Rotom V, which you will use if it's in play. You will always use Rotom V because, well, you won't always, but you'll essentially always use it. And Pidgeot allows you to stop you from decking out. It does a few things, but it's really, Pidgeot doesn't do very much. Rotom is not complicated. Mimikyu, you stick up. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure when you stick up Mimikyu, but it can like slow your opponent down, can do some things. Can be really nice to hide behind, but it's kind of like an alternative to Snorlax. Snorlax, you just stick in the active. Spiritomb you can play down if your opponent is doing certain things that are going to cause problems for you, but generally you don't want to play Spiritomb. So pretty much you just play Snorlax, you can Rotom. Very straightforward. There is essentially no nuance to the Pokemon in this deck. And then we see supporters are a little more complicated, but you're not consistent enough, so you're just going to play whatever supporters you have. And in terms of setup supporters, you'll generally just do Arvin. Avery has a little bit of nuance, but not that much. Misfortune Sisters, Eric's Invitation, Sydney all depend on your opponent's... Oh, wait, no, sorry. Eric's Invitation and Sydney depend on your opponent's hand, so you may need to like think a little bit before doing those plays, but... honestly, it comes down to luck, which is another annoying part of the deck, but that is a thing. You have Penny, Boss, Misfortune Sisters, Yell's Cheer, Celine, Peonia, Giacomo, and Avery, all pretty straightforward cards to play. Avery, you could theoretically do wrong. The idea is you can like get and trap certain stuff. Anyway, so nothing too crazy there. And then the items are all they're items generally. Items are pretty straightforward. And then yeah, Force Seal Stone, Temple Sinnoh, you just play them. There's some nuance, it's not like a free deck to play necessarily. There are you can misplay, and most people do misplay, like always. But it's nothing. It's easy to pick up for anyone essentially. Counter Catcher, but Counter Catcher is really good as well. Counter Catcher is why this deck's so good. Or part of why it's so good. It's the new inclusion that makes the deck so good. There are other new cards that you could play. This deck doesn't play any of them though. I don't think, unless I'm just missing something. But yeah, so Sonic Stall, pretty good. I don't know why I've opened it twice. But yeah, and then this other list is a bit more complicated. You do have Abominable V, which allows you to do certain things, but it's more of a Hail Mary or guaranteed play, and it really doesn't offer a lot of other nuance to the deck. You honestly won't use it a lot of the time. And then, yeah, again, this list is very straightforward. So Snorlax Stall is a straightforward, it's easy deck. That's good. But that's not necessarily the full issue either. People aren't going to ban Sandaconda because it's easy, or like some like easy deck. I mean, a lot of these aren't like that bad. Durant's not very hard to play. Durant's a weird case. Let's see. Let's find some like baby easy deck that's like Lunto and Solrock. This deck's easy. It's not the easiest deck, but it's pretty easy. And like no one's gonna say like ban Lunto and Solrock, because obviously not. So Snorlax is easy and good, but arguably like Roaring Moon is easy and good. Gardevoir isn't that hard. The Gardevoir has some nuances. Certainly, it's not like super easy, but it's not like crazy hard. Charizard is pretty easy. Giratina is relatively easy. Miraidon's pretty easy. Chimpow is pretty easy. Gholdengo is pretty easy. Lost Zone's like a little hard. Some people consider this deck super hard, but you don't have to play a complicated build. Tyrant Valiant, a lot of these decks are relatively easy. They're not as, I'd say Snorlax is probably the easiest of all of them, but like it's not like the easiness is the biggest issue, but it is easy, which is something to note. Meaning that, but it's control. So this is the big idea. People hate playing against control, right? That's just like the matter of the. I don't know what the saying is that I'm trying to find, but that's just what the situation is. That people don't like playing against control, but people really don't like playing against control when it's easy. When you're like control is hard to play. So if your opponent's like making misplays, then it become and generally easier decks have less options. So you're just going to be sitting in this game, and there aren't really many options, but there are options for you, which is the interesting aspect. So let's take a look at some top decks to see how like good they are against Snorlax. Well, we can look at win rates. So Snorlax's win rates against Gardevoir is super high. Gardevoir is notoriously, in my opinion, bad against control. So we can take a look at the list, and we see that you can trap Radiant Greninja, Manaphy, Jirachi. You can trap Mew or Screamtail, but not always. You can't trap the Gardevoir line. You mean theoretically can, but realistically that's essentially never going to happen. So yeah, you can trap a lot of these basics though, and so the idea of the opponent is to not play those basics. Snorlax, you can gust around Snorlax sometimes, assuming they have something that's not Snorlax in play, and then you can retreat. And Gardevoir doesn't play any Switch. Now, sometimes they play Professor Terra's scenario. So this comes to the point of you can play cards to counter Snorlax. You can say I want to beat Snorlax, and you can beat Snorlax. I think notoriously there's a deck on PokemonCard.io that was just this beats Snorlax. It was like one Stone Journey and like a bunch of energy, the Stone Journey from Silver Tempest, and that beats Snorlax. It's pretty straightforward, incredibly straightforward, 59 energies, but and it beats Snorlax. You can beat Snorlax if you want. You can play. There's a tech Minior. I could talk about it beats Snorlax. It essentially will always beat Snorlax. There are things Snorlax can do to counter it softly, but at the end of the day, Snorlax versus Minior will really beat Snorlax. Now this comes again into the question of tech cards. Like this deck plays two tech cards. Well, you could argue what tech cards are and aren't, but this deck plays Manaphy and Jirachi. Those do not actively help its regular game plan, but people play it oftentimes in Gardevoir. And specifically, they often play Manaphy. A lot of decks play Manaphy, and you don't have to play Manaphy, right? And so you can make the same argument for Minior, and then that's why I don't know if people call it into the ban of Lost Zone, but that's why people didn't like Lost Zone. Although you could counter it, and now you can counter it better. But the one is hard counter. So Snorlax is a hard counter. Again, there's a hard counter Mew and Drapion, and there are a few things. And then it gets all complicated, and it's like, how good is the counter actually? And then you get into this big debate of counters. But we're not really going to focus on that. I don't think that defines the issue. Some people are saying that defines the issue. And I could see that, but I don't think Minior means that Snorlax shouldn't be banned. I think hard counters to broken cards is not good. I think saying you have to play this card or you'll lose this matchup, and that like completely defines things. That means that there's essentially no skill anymore, because if you have the counter, you win. If you don't have the counter, you lose. That's not fun. So that does not negate its ban. So I'd say, in fact, if there was a deck that was just this always wins unless you play this counter, in which case it always loses, ban that card. That card is so nasty for the game, or at least it could be banned, and I could see a very fair argument for it, and I probably would ban that card. But that is not the case of Snorlax. As I said, it's good, but it's not like completely broken good or anything. But yeah, it sucks to play against, because, what if you're playing this and you bench Radiant Greninja, not knowing what you're doing by accident, and you're a newer player and you just get gusted up by a Snorlax trap, and you just are sad for the next 15, 20 minutes. You are now suffering, not doing anything. Like, you're objectively not having fun, essentially, because you're not doing anything. It's hard to have fun when you're not playing the game. And then you are now you're being punished, and it is a learning experience for a newer player, but it really sucks. Like, it just doesn't have fun. You're just not having fun, and this is the heart of the matter. Pokemon's a game. It's about having fun. And Snorlax does not necessarily encourage fun with the game. Now, some people would make the argument, I used to think this, that control is always not fun, and this is not necessarily the case, in my opinion. I mean, I have fun playing with it, but I can have fun playing against it as well. But Snorlax is so simple. I think control is interesting for the complexities it brings to the game. If Snorlax doesn't have those complexities. So then it gets to the idea of, is control a deck you should be playing? Some people would say that you shouldn't play control. It's bad to do. It's mean. And that's really interesting. Arguably, Pokemon has said that in their bans and expanded. They banned a number of cards and expanded. And those cards are control cards. If you can see that in GLC. GLC has a number of bans. A number of those bans are control cards. So, and then we've seen this in Standard. If you've seen bans in Standard, sometimes, not always, but sometimes they're control cards. Certainly a higher portion of the cards printed, or the cards banned, are control cards compared to the amount of control cards that are printed. But then this is really interesting, because they blatantly print control cards. Snorlax is blatantly a control card. You can't say it's anything other than a control card. I mean, you can, but I don't think you would have a very good argument there. So yeah, Snorlax is just like, it is a control card, right? And that's a very, very important thing that Pokemon has chosen to print it. So if you want my answer, will it be banned? It will not. I'd be shocked if Snorlax is banned. Unless like the community does some like crazy like thing, they're like, oh, I'm gonna not play the game because Snorlax or something. But like, Snorlax is Pokemon clearly printed Snorlax with the intent of it being a control card, and then they print all like counter, like they are aware that counter catcher helps control. They're not like completely ignorant or like just They're not. They know this, and they actively know that control will be good. They don't necessarily know how good it will be. But it's not like they completely missed counter catch or Snorlax synergy. It's pretty obvious synergy, as you're always down on prizes essentially, so you're always gusting, and there's just synergy here. Not that I'm saying counter catch is bad. I think counter catch is really fun, but Snorlax is not so fun, and I think that is the heart of the matter. As to whether I think it should be banned or not, honestly, I'm not sure where I stand because it doesn't create a fun environment, and I'm a YouTuber and I do it because I enjoy the game. And I think a lot of people do it. Some people don't. Some people just look at it competitively and don't enjoy it. And okay, I don't know if this is controversial. I don't think it should be controversial. But I think if you don't enjoy Pokemon, you shouldn't play Pokemon. And I think this is true of any game. I know there are some people who play it that don't enjoy it or like don't always enjoy it, but yeah, I mean, I like essentially always enjoy Pokemon. Even when I'm like getting rolled over, I enjoy making content. I enjoy playing it. I just enjoy like having a fun time. And Snorlax doesn't facilitate that. Like, but it doesn't completely ruin it either. It depends on the person. There's some people who hate playing against certain decks, and like I don't know, and it's people who don't like playing with certain decks. And so I don't know. I could see it going either way for what people should say. Like, I think there is a very fair argument to make that Snorlax should be banned. With the fun aspect. It is about the fun aspect, though. And I think if you're looking at it for any other way, like, is it too good? No, I don't. It's not too good. Is it too like easy? And I mean, no, I don't really think a deck should be banned for being too easy. That's kind of weird. Um, I mean, it would need to be like absurd, like very good. And I think if Snorlax was just like you don't do anything at all, like literally did like essentially nothing, and it had the winner it did, then yes, that would be ban worthy. But it would need to be like so brain dead easy that like you essentially made zero decisions the whole game, which is not true. A brand new player will not win the Snorlax stall. They just won't. They will lose probably miserably, as they will with most decks against like a veteran player. Like if I've played against new players and I beat them. I beat them generally badly unless the deck is I'm playing is drastically worse than the deck they're playing, but I still probably will beat them. It depends how much like guidance they have as well. But if it's a brand new player and they aren't having like any guidance from someone, they will not know what to do at all. And so, which is fine, but you will learn through that and all that. But what I'm saying is that Snorlax Stall is not some like absurdly easy deck. But yeah, I'd say the fun component is a problem, or the lack of fun. And so I don't think they should have printed it, is what I'll say. I don't think Snorlax should have been printed. Because Snorlax existed before. Snorlax existed. Where do I find it? Here we go. Snorlax existed. With block Snorlax existed specifically from Plasma. What is this Plasma? Something. I've not. What is this? I don't know. I'm sure it's Plasma Storm. Yeah, there we go. I was like forgetting the name. So yeah, this card is seen play in standard. Yeah, here we go. This is some standard stuff, I think. It's some playing standard. It's some seem more playing expanded. So like Regirock walls. This is an expanded deck. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And then it has block Snorlax. There is a block Snorlax deck. Which is like this is part of it. I think there are decks that I'm more focused on as well. But anyway, that's for another time. Yeah, this card existed before. It's not Pokemon. It's not like Pokemon accidentally printed this as a control card. They're like, oh, it won't be a control card. Like, yeah, it's obviously going to be a control card. And so for that reason, I think Pokemon is not going to ban it. I'd be shocked, as I said, if they ban it. I think it's fair if they did. I could go if it was up to me. I could go either way. I don't think it's as clear cut either. I think it's there's some depth to it. But I'm interested here in hearing what your thoughts are down below. And if you have heard my take before, if you agree with my take and all that good stuff, keep it friendly. It's not like stall. I get why people don't like it. As I said, and in terms of text as well, I do think it is beatable if you don't have like you don't need Minior to beat it. You don't need certain cards to beat it. You probably need some switch. Like you can't play like Zero Switch and all these Pokemon that you can't attack with and win, but pretty much any of these top decks can beat Snorlax Stall if you play well, and if you get like you don't need to get like that lucky. If you just play well, you can beat Snorlax Stall, right? Don't Don't bench Pokemon you can attack with. Try to fill your board with Pokemon you can attack with, or make it so you can't get Echoing Horned or Erica's Invitation. Erica's Invitation drags from your hand. But they don't know that. They don't know what's in your hand, presumably. But then Echoing Horn drags from your discard, so try not to discard them. That would you shouldn't ever have to discard them, except for under like crazy circumstances. They can't even necessarily survive like Mew. I said earlier, like in Guard 4, you can trap Mew, but that's not necessarily true. I'll say that because you will do 30 and eventually KO them. There are some nuances to that. There's Helmet Defiance Vest, but they don't always play that. So anyway, yeah, those are my thoughts on Snorlax Stall, which isn't the most satisfying thing. Is it could go either way. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. I'm excited to see you in the next video. Also like, comment, all that good stuff, and see ya.